Okay, good evening. Welcome to this week's Parsha, Parshas Vayishlach. I have three fabulous ideas to share with you. The first, we're going to touch on the famous Bakom Mikol Kol in benching, which has sources in this week's Parsha, amazingly. Take a look at the first box. If you're listening online, then please email me at j.golker@gmail.com and I'll send you the handout. The Pasuk says, Vayisa Yaakov Eino Vayar V'ne Esov Ba V'imay Arba Meis Ish. So here's the storyline, we're familiar with it, that Yaakov and Esov, the end of Parsha told us, Yaakov went and got the brachas, Esov was out to kill him, he was so annoyed, and Yaakov has then went off to Shiur Shem Ve'eva, he then went to Lavan, so many years have passed. Yaakov has since married 4 wives, many children, and now there is the famous reunion. Vayoratz Esov likroso, and Esov runs to meet him, and they embrace, and really the meeting goes better than Yaakov feared. Vayises Enov, and Esov lifts his eyes, who are they? Yaakov says very inspirationally, these are the children which Hashem has blessed me with. And then he says, who are these? I have a lot, famously. Yaakov, and then he says, so Esau says, Yeshli Rav, I've got a lot, which means I could always do this more. And Yaakov says, Yeshli Kol, I've got everything I need. Yeshli Kol. Now, the Gemara in Baba Basra, Daf Tes Zayin on the base at the very bottom, and it spills over to Yud Zayin on Aleph, says, Ton Rabbanon, Shloishe Hetzibin HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Olam Hazeh Me'elam Haba. There are 3 people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them the smell of Olam Haba in this world. Eluhin, who are they? Avraham, Yitzchak, V'Yaakov. Avraham dichsiv bei Bakol, Yitzchak dichsiv bei Mikol, and Yaakov dichsiv bei Kol. And that's why we say in Birchas Hamazon, we say Haracham Yivarech Kamosh Nisbaruch Avosenu Avram of Yaakov Bakol Mikol Kol. That's where it comes from. Kein Yivarech Yisonu Kulonu Yachad B'Bracha Shleima, etc. Now that's where it comes from. Where was the Bakol of Avram Avinu? Says the Pasuk in Chayesor, Avram Zokin B'Vayomim Hashem Berech Es Avraham Bakol. Now I saw a fabulous insight from Rabbi Shalom Rosner, and he says the following: when was this Bakol? When was it said? V'Avram Zokin B'Vayomim V'Hashem Berech Es Avram Bakol. It was said immediately after Sarah's death, and yet he was blessed with everything. What does that mean? It means that notwithstanding the terrible blow that he just received, that Sarah had just died, he felt a certain Yishuv Hadaz, a certain completeness. And that's the mark of a great man. That despite what life throws your way, you can feel a certain connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and a certain Yishuv Hadaz, a certain serenity, despite what life throws your way. Next one, with Parshas Toldos, that's with Yitzchak. Vayecher ad Yitzchak charod gedoyle ad ma'od, vayom mi'ofu hu hatzot zayv vayovli v'oichel mikol b'terem tov v'varchehu. V'oichel mikol. The mikol is taken from that pasuk. What's the context? The context is Yaakov suddenly realizes, oh my gosh, I've just given the bracha to the wrong son. Yaakov had come in pretending to be Esau, and then suddenly, a few minutes later, after Yaakov disappears, Esau comes in. He trembles on the realization of what happened. Who was the person who hunted and gave me, and I ate it, mikal of all of it, b'terem tovai, before you had come. Who was the one before? You just arrived now, Esau. And I blessed him. You see that he also experienced mikal, v'oichal mikal, after the very confusing experience with it being Yaakov, not Esau. He also he had that great serenity that only great people have. And so too with Yaakov. When did he say kol? It says, Ki chonani Elokim v'chi yesh li kol. After he was petrified of this confrontation with Esau, he prepares, he thinks it's going to be a battle, his wife, his children, everything's at stake here. So it's a very challenging encounter with Esau, and yet he says kol. So what you see from this is an amazing thing, that bakol mikol kol is a bracha of completeness and serenity amidst confusion. If ever there was a time of confusion, and challenges, they've always been throughout Jewish history. But we're living in the 21st century. We're post-October the 7th. Life is frenetic. It's scary. But that's exactly the point. Bakol mikol kol is that we appreciate the blessings and the divine gifts that we have, and hopefully that will engender a certain serenity, a certain yishuv adas. Interestingly, how do you do that? How do you control your emotions? How do you do that? There's a famous Chavetz Chaim where the Chavetz Chaim discusses the 10th of the Aseret HaDibros, lo sachmoit. How can you command on an emotion? Don't be jealous. Somebody else has got the gifts and the blessings that you would love to have. How do you deal with that? So the Chavetz Chaim would give a mashal. He would say, imagine a father, his son goes into business and he does very well. He becomes a millionaire. How does the father feel about his son? A father would feel very proud of his son. He's very proud. He's not jealous of him. The Gemara says that you can be jealous of everyone apart from your own child. So he's very happy. He's very proud of his child, and he certainly doesn't second guess God and said, why did you give it to him? So if you can do that with your own child, then hopefully you can just extend it. You can extend that feeling to other people as well. You feel happy for them. They've had bracha. They've made a shidduch. They've made money. They're in good health. Whatever they're enjoying, they've done well in business. Whatever it may be, you feel happy for them, and you don't have to second guess God and why them. And that really is one of the ideas of Bakol Mikol Kol. Okay, now the next idea I heard some time ago. I think it was 2021. I had it saved in my Parsha notes from Y.Y. Jacobson. It's the most remarkable insight. In this week's Parsha, Rachel Imenu dies. So if you take a look at box number 2, Pasuk Perek Lamatei Pasuk Yutes. Thomas Rachel Imenu dies. Vatikover baderech Efrasa hi beis lechem, and she's buried in cave of Rachel. Vayat save Yaakov matzeva al kvurosa hi matzeves kvurosa Rachel ad hayod. And that is the burial place of Rachel until today. Vayisa Yisrael vayeta aloim b'halav v'lemigdalois. And then he carries on traveling. Vayi b'shkoin Yisrael be'eretz hahi vayelech Reuven vayishkav es bilha pilegesh aviv. The pasuk tells us that Reuven, literally, he lay down with Bilha, the pilegesh of his father, one of the wives of Yaakov Avinu, vayishma Yisrael vayibnei Yaakov shnei masa. So very challenging episodes. But the Gemara says, and Rashi quotes it, it says straight afterwards in the same pasuk, vayiyu bnei Yaakov shnei masa. Says Rashi, Rabbi Seinu darshu lamdeinu shekulan shavin. That in the same pasuk it says, vayishkav es Bilha pilegesh aviv, vayu bnei Yaakov shnei masa v'kulan tzadikim shelo echatu Reuven. And indeed, the Gemara says the kol mishayim shechatu Reuven eina ela taya. He's making a mistake. Now, at the end in Sefer Devarim, in the third pasuk of Sefer Devarim, in Perek Aleph, pasuk Gimel, in Parsha's Devarim, Moshe Rabbeinu is giving Musa to the Jewish people. There's an interesting Rashi. Vayihi bar boim shana bar shtei osach chodesh be'echad lachodesh. Melamed shelo hichichen ele somach lemisa. That Moshe Rabbeinu only gave Musa to the Jewish people at the very end of his life, just before he passed away. Mimi lomat. Where did he know how to do this? Says Rashi, mi Yaakov. But he learned it from Yaakov Avinu. Shelo hichiach es bonov ele somach lemisa. That so too Yaakov Avinu only gave Musa. He rebuked his children only very close to his death. Oma, Reuven b'ni, Reuven, my son, ani oimelecha mipnei ma lo yichachtu chol hashanim halolu. Why didn't I rebuke you for any shortfall all the years till now? Kedei shelo tanicheni v'telech v'tidbak be'esav achi. That you shouldn't abandon me and go and cleave to my brother Esav. And the other giants of Jewish history did the same. But a remarkable thing, that Yaakov Avinu didn't rebuke his son Reuven until Somach Lemisa, because he was worried that Reuven would go and sort of gravitate towards Esav. And therefore he didn't do it, and he waited till the Somach Lemisa. Asks Rabbi Jacobson an obvious question. If Reuven would have wanted to, he could have gone off anytime he wanted to. How is delaying the rebuke exactly going to help? And moreover, how long did Yaakov actually remain quiet for? So we can do the maths. We know exactly. It comes out 48 years. How so? Yaakov, when he got the brachas, was 63 years old. He ran to the Shiur of Shem Ve'eva, and he was there for 14 years. He then spent 22 years with the whole episode with Lavan, getting married, building a family. He was there for 20 years, and as the Rashi tells us, there was 2 years of travel. So if you add up 63 and 14 and 22, you get 99. Yaakov was 147 when he died. So the incident of when Rachel died, it happened at the end of that traveling time. And therefore, if Yaakov was 147 when he died, you take away that 99 years when he was 99, when Rachel died, that's 48 years. So Yaakov Avinu lived, if my maths is correct, 48 years after Rachel passed away. So the incident happened 48 years earlier, and Yaakov kept quiet for 48 years, for close to 50 years. Now, Reuven could have gone to Esau straight away. Why wasn't Yaakov worried, if you like, that perhaps, in the interim, before he would give any rebuke, that Esau would go off to, that Reuven would go off to Esau? Says Rabbi Jacobson an amazing thing. If Reuven felt that his father had something to say to him, but refrained from doing so, that can only be because that his father Yaakov wanted a relationship with him. And it was the desire to have a relationship with his son that actually kept him close. That's an astonishing idea. And therefore Yaakov knew that he didn't have anything to worry about, because he knew that he had that relationship, that he held off from rebuking his son until his very end of his days, because he wanted the relationship. And therefore he wasn't concerned that Reuven was going to go off. Astonishing. Last night I was talking to a certain parent about the challenges of parenting. And there's no secret single bullet that solves all the solutions. But one key solution is that a person has got to have a relationship and a connection with a child. It's all to do with a relationship. And that connection is critical, and it's the most effective way in successful parenting. If you want to have a relationship with a child. And that really is what kept Yaakov and Reuven so close, says Rabbi Jacobson. That he didn't rebuke Reuven for close to 50 years, for half a century. And that knowledge of Reuven, that he knew that his father wanted that relationship, that was enough to keep him and not make him go and gravitate towards Esau. It's a very interesting insight that he suggests. Okay, let's move on. Not only does Rachel die in this week's Parsha, but Yitzchak dies as well, towards the very end of the Parsha. He lives for 180 years. He dies, and he's gathered in, and he's buried by his 2 sons. Now, the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says something amazing. There's a machlokes when Yitzchak was born. The Gemara says, Rabbi Shiur Omer, Minayin shebe Nisan noldu avos. How do you know that the avos were all born in Nisan? And the Gemara goes and proves it. And then the Gemara says the following statement: Man da'ama b'Nisan noldu b'Nisan mesu, and man da'ama b'Tishri noldu b'Tishri mesu. Whenever they were born, whether it was Nisan or Tishri, they died in the same month. Shenemar, as it says, Vayomer Aleim, about Moshe Rabbeinu, Ben Me'ah ve'esrim shana anochi hayom, I'm 120 years today. She'ein Talmud lo mahayom, it doesn't need to say today. Ma Talmud lo mahayom, hayom molu yom hashnoisai. Because today, says Moshe Rabbeinu, I turned 120 and I completed not only my years, but my days as well. Lamedcha, שהקדוש ברוך הוא יושב וממלא שנותיהם של צדיקים מיום ליום ומחודש לחודש שנאמר אס מספר יומך המלא. When it comes to tzaddikim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps them live, and they die on their birthday. They live a full life, literally, that every single year is to the full, and therefore they die with completeness of days as well. The Yismach Moshe gives the following mashal. You give a gift to a mitzvah boy, or to a present to someone. You round it up. Whatever it's, whether it's 18 pounds, 36 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, you round it up. When it comes to paying a debt, you pay £14.72. You've got a debt in the groceries in the makolet. You don't round it up. You pay whatever the debt is. Why is it you round it up when you give a gift? The answer is because when it comes to a gift, you're giving generously. You're giving with love, with affection, and therefore you give the complete thing. When it comes to a debt, you've got to pay exact. So when it comes to tzaddikim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu rounds it up, and therefore it's not a sort of a. Now, I just on that Gemara in Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Aleph, there's a source for, I think it's a Daf Yomi resource. I've got it on my Bar Ilan computer, and it's called Daf Ala Daf. And I just want to go through these few paragraphs where it says some very interesting insights regarding this, because again the connection is that Yitzchak dies, and the Gemara tells us that he dies on the day he's born, whether that was Nisan or whether that was Tishri, but that his days and years are complete. So let's take a look at this final box. B'misbah Chochma, in this sefer, Mevi Sharav HaKodesh Reb Eliezer Medjikov Zatzal Nifta B'Yom Gimel Mar Cheshvan Tofresh Chaf Aleph. So he died on the 3rd of Mar Cheshvan in Tofresh Chaf Aleph, which is 160 odd years ago, which was about 1880, right? 1860, sorry. V'Tzadikim Romzu Bazeh, and the Tzadikim, when he passed away, they found a remez. Ki teves es mispar yomecha amale, the number of your days I will complete. Soife teves, the last letters of each of those, es mispar yomecha amale, that's Tov, Chof, Chof, Aleph, who Tofresh Chof Aleph, that adds up to Tofresh Chof Aleph. Atkan, they were very happy with that. The year of his death. V'gam harav HaKodesh HaSoref Mikotsk, the great Kotzker Rebbe, Zatzal, Nifta, Kashoy ben Ayim Beis Shonim. He was 72 years old when he passed away. Kaminyan Amalei. So his Talmidim noted that when it says, Es mispar Yomecha Amalei, the word of Amalei, I will complete, is Gematria 72. And then when the Kotzker Rebbe died at 72, there was a sort of a sense of comfort for his students. V'harav HaKodesh Misokachov, Zatzal. Kehigid be'ez petiras zugaso harabanit, when the Rebbetzin died, who was the daughter of the Kotzker Rebbe, she also gamkein he nifter bas ayin beis shonim, gamu nifter kein ayin beis, and they found some sort of solace in that because 72 is the Gematria of Amalei. Now listen to this. V'yesh oid remez bin pasuk es mizba yomecha Amalei al pi hayodua mamori ha'imri emes Zatzal. The Imri Emes was the son of the Sfas Emes. She'oma be'ez halvoyes oviv. When the Sfas Emes died, Zatzal, the Imri Emes said at the Levaya to his fellow brothers, Daddy, the Sfas Emes, had arichas yomim. Now that was very strange. Limroi shechai rak nun zayin shom, because he was only 57 years old. The Sfas Emes was 57 years old. You don't say he had arichas yomim. 57 is not old. Or bier sheyom of hoya aruchim. So this Imri Emes, the son of the Sfas Emes, said, you know what I mean? When his brothers looked at him a bit confused. What do you mean Daddy had arichas yomim? No, because you wish someone arichas yomim v'shonim. Shonim means long years, you live for a long life, and yomim means that your days are productive. So Daddy had arichas yomim means that in the relatively short lifespan that he lived, his days were full and he was very productive. V'yesh arichas rabba b'sfarim hakadoshim b'nizeh. There's a lot of arichas about this. V'yesh loimed the zeh haremez k'moshe kosov es mispar yomecha amalei. That's what it's referring to in this pasuk. Hainu shayomim meleim es mispar yomecha amalei. Your days I will fill. V'oz mistalik ha'odom lebeis olamei. When a person lives a productive life and achieves an impact, then he can go off eventually to his beis olam. In other words, the concept of a person dying on his birthday in the Hasidic and in the world of Tzaddikim is a very powerful one, a very important one, because it's a simon that they've actually completed their life's goal. Their days literally are complete. Now let's just read through the next three paragraphs, some very interesting things. That answers what the Pnei Yeshua says in Kiddushin. Madua ka'omar es mispar yomecha amalei. What does it mean that tzaddikim die on the day they're born? That it says mispar yomecha amalei. Why not ves mispar shnoisecha amalei? V'rei ma shekosov v'rekech la Torah. Check out there. Ach lahanal osi shaper. It fits in very well according to what I've said. Hafle v'fele That's exactly the point. It's dafka es mispar yomecha amale tahayomim meleim, because the days are full. Etzlan tzadikim v'lo rak hashanim. It's not just the years; it's the days that are full. V'rei chidush b'sefer Galia Meseches b'chelik hadrush behesped shagon Reb Chaim Volozhin zatzal. Reb Chaim Volozhin gave a hesped. Shekosov to mad'isa b'chazal sheHaKadosh Baruch Hu marish nesem shasadikim miyom liyom hu miyom bris milah. Very interesting. That he says when it's Yucheshben, the year of a tzaddik, it's not from his birthday, but it's from the day that he had bris milah. Now that's the problem, because Moshe Rabbeinu was born and died on which day? On Zayin Adar. So that seems to throw a spanner in the works. What's the answer? The answer is Etzel Moshe Rabbeinu hayakol kach kim shenoled mohel. They say about Moshe Rabbeinu he was born mohel. So his birthday in the bris was actually sort of simultaneous. Adkan v'hudov v'nifla. Last paragraph. V'rei b'taima dekrol hagon Reb Chaim Kanievsky shlita. Sadly now Zatzal. Reb Chaim Kanievsky's got a fabulous sefer called Taima Dekra, and it's very interesting ideas. And he writes there, he's quoting it here, Shekosov the Haremez ben Yezed, the Moshe Rabbeinu nifta b'yom leidosahu. There's a remez that Moshe Rabbeinu was born, passed away on the day where he actually was born, Zayin Adar. The Afal Gav, now, birthdays are actually a special day, and your mazel is up on your birthday. So how come a person, therefore, tzaddik, passes away on his birthday? I thought your mazel's up. How can a tzaddik die on the day of his birth? Which is, again, the connection to this week's Parsha, Yitzchak. It's the day where your mazel is strong and powerful. That's talking about regular people. On the contrary, when a tzaddik dies, that's a very special day. They've achieved what they've needed to achieve in this world. And then they go on to the next world. It's a very powerful day. On the contrary, it supports it. Because the day of their birthday is a day when it's a very auspicious, powerful day. They've completed their life's task, and then they move on. The divrei pi chacham chen. These words of Reb Chaim Kanievsky are very beautiful and wise. That's exactly the point. And the day that a tzaddik passes away often is the day of his birth. Beautiful. So I just thought it was an interesting postscript. So the fact that Yitzchak Avinu dies, and says the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah that all the Avos died on the day in which they were born, and then the other tzaddikim as well. And like the Yismach Moshe says, because for the loved ones of HaKadosh Baruch Hu rounds it up. It's like a gift. But when it comes to debts, then it's £14.72. So let's just summarize the three things that we've said. Number one is the Bakol Mikol Kol, that very beautiful insight that we daven, that those three had, it says the Gemara in Basra, they had a tam of Olam Haba in Olam Hazeh. And that's alluded to by these brachas. But if you explore all three examples of Bakol with Avraham, Mikol with Yitzchak, and Kol with Yaakov, you see that all three, they actually came about in the very challenging times after Sarah died. With Yitzchak after the confusing experience with Yaakov and Esav and the brachas, and with Yaakov after the challenging encounter with Esav. And yet they were blessed, and they felt the blessing, and they felt that serenity, that Yishuv Adas amidst the challenge. And that is really what the blessing is, to have that Yishuv Adas, that peace of mind amidst the bracha. Then we said with Reuven that Yaakov Avinu only castigated his son, many years later, close to 50 years later. Because, says Rashi in Devarim, he was worried that he would cling to Esav, but surely Reuven could go off at any point. What kept him? What prevented him from going? It was the knowledge that his father wanted a relationship with him. That itself gave him the strength and the comfort that kept him, as it were. An astonishing insight. And then lastly, the years and the days of Tzaddikim, that Yitzchak dies in this week's Parsha. The Gemara Rosh Hashanah says that the Tzaddikim die on the day in which they're born, and as we said, the rounding up of a gift, and many interesting comments how that features in terms of the Daf al Daf, in terms of the Kotzker Rebbe and the Sfas Emes, etc. And that's the Arichas Yom V'Shonim, that there's a certain completeness in the years and in the days, and it's sort of a testimony to the productivity and the fact they've completed their mission in this world.